finishes to his name. 2001 for Javier Dominguez, 9 top finishes to his name. Yoshihiko Ikawa, runner-up at a Mythic Championship, #1, the first one we ever had in 2019. Top 8'd at Pro Tour San Diego in 2010 as well. Part of Team Moriyama Japan, who had a fantastic day 1 here in the building. Javier Dominguez, 2018 World Champion, Mythic Championship 5 champion in Long Beach. Team Handshake Ultimate Guard, which I'm calling Hug here this weekend.
Love it.
Asked for advice on a Pro Tour like this, he just said, hey, remember to have fun. So I hope he's having fun out there at those draft tables this morning, certainly while he's winning. Corey, let's take a look at these decks.
Yeah, it's easier to have fun when you're winning. I will tell you that. So yeah, let's take a look at the list here. First, starting off with Ikawa here. This is the Gruul deck we just saw. The deck is very powerful. You have a couple explosive derailments, Scorching Shot as your good removal spells. Beastbound Outcast is my favorite green uncommon. That card is really powerful. And then as our power creature, it is Stingerback Terror. Now, this is not going to be the best terror creature in this matchup as we pivot over to Javier's list, because this is the one I very much want to talk about it. It is terrifying, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Terror of the Peak here with just really premium removal spells.
Wow.
You have Electro Dominance as your first X spell, and then Crackle with Power, Snap, Crackle, and Pop. That card is absolutely incredible if you can get a large amount and just finish off your opponent really easily. So Javier's deck is excellent. Ikawa's deck is good, but I would definitely put advantage to Javier on this
All
one.
right, so we could see Ikawa's first loss in the tournament here. Coming up, round number 10. Everyone, Riley and Cedric are in the booth. Take it away, boys!
Thank you very much, Maria. Good to be here once again for day 2 of Pro Tour Thunder Junction Riley Night, joined by Cedric Phillips. And we're back again to check in with this limited format. Cedric, I've had a lot of fun getting to know what is a pretty young format, all things considered, learning a couple of things as we go from the best in the world. Worth reminding people probably around the world watching, tuning in, that the pros haven't had as long to prepare for this draft format than they usually do.
We've been saying about 10 days. I guess technically would make it 11 now. That
an
it's
extra
Saturday.
day. Yeah.
Ooh, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
This limited format, players normally have around 17 days to get ready. You kind of sit with their teams, talk online, play on Magic Arena, and Magic the Gathering online to really get a feel for things. But this tournament has much more of a, as far as the limited portion is concerned, much more of a pre-release style feel, because players have admitted in conversations with us that they just have not had as much time as normal to get ready for this tournament, not only because of the days, but also because of the size of the format. There's a lot of different cards here with the breaking news cards and just the cards that are in the set in general. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to prepare for, which means it's going to be very difficult for everyone to prepare for everything. And there's going to be some unexpected twists and turns.
I like it. I
really do enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's fun to sort of have the players on their toes in this way, you know, put them to the test and see how agile and nimble they can be with their approach to a format that is going to be a little less familiar than usual. All right, we're opening things up here. Javier Dominguez, the former world champion. Both players keeping 7 by the look of things. Like to see that. And it's a mobile homestead as the opening play, the vehicle here for Dominguez. On the other side of things now for Ikawa. He's got a 2-drop of his own, Raucous Entertainer.
Come on, one line. Yeah. Oh, hit.
Javier won on a land, and he got one.
Big hits here for the Spaniard as he flips over a land. And seems to be off to a good start here, Cedric, with a Vial Smasher joining the mobile homestead.
And this is an absolutely fantastic start here for Javier. Able to hit a land, which is effectively the same as drawing a card in that instance. Also able to add to the battlefield even more with that Vial Smasher. So for Javier, this is an ideal start. We haven't seen some of his better cards show up yet. Those X spells that Corey did mention from the news desk. But if those ever show up, finding more lands, Riley, that's more than ideal.
Oh yeah.
No, this is a
Yep. You want as many as possible in play when you're when you're crackling with power. But it's not just Dominguez that is also ramping his mana. Dance of the Tumbleweeds searches up an extra land here for Ikawa. But in comes the mobile homestead again. Oh, how does he do it?
It's easy.
How does he do it?
Easy.
People come up to Dominguez in the street and they stop and they say, Javier, I've got to know. How do you do it?
How do you do it?
And he doesn't tell them.
I wouldn't tell him.
I wouldn't tell him either, actually.
I'm not going to tell you all this.
Well, actually, we're kind of joking here a little bit. I did ask Dominguez what he thinks one of the keys to his success is. I was just hanging out with him one time, and I was talking about how well he does at Magic. And do you know what he said his secret weapon is? This is not a joke. This is not a bit. I'm not setting you up here.
I have a guess.
What is it?
This is not going to be a direct quote. I've not talked to Javier. It's that he enjoys himself when he plays Magic. Is that what it is, that he has fun?
I'm sure that helps.
Okay.
His secret weapon, he said to me, sleep.
That doesn't hurt.
This guy sleeps 12 hours a night during
That's
these
a
things.
lot
He
of
goes to bed
those.
super early. He doesn't go out.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He says he sleeps as much as possible, so he's as rested as possible.
Who has the time?
Well, Javier Dominguez does, Cedric. I've just told you.
Jeez, get all this sleep and do all this winning. Yeah, okay.
Oh, must be nice.
Yeah, okay,
Must
buddy.
be nice to be so successful and well rested and good looking. Oh, my goodness. He's just got it all going for him, doesn't he?
And no argument here.
Right now, however, he's having to think about things as he
18-14. Yeah.
weathers this attack from Ikawa, who follows up an attack
Go.
with a very efficient removal spell, although Scorching Shot can sometimes be a little difficult to cast.
Yeah, it can be because of the double red, but it is one of the better removal spells in the format. I know a lot of players coming into this event, they didn't really love red as a color. Some players rank it the worst, but realistically, it's hard to say exactly what is the worst in the format because the format is somewhat new. But red is on the lower end, I think.
But
it
even
is-
then, it's not terrible.
It's not terrible at all. I mean,
we've-
red is always bringing removal with you, but it is worth noting, of course, that both players are deep in this tournament and have red in their deck.
11.
Right, irascible Wolverine comes in from the plot zone. You can see Beastbond Outcaster also has been plotted by Ikawa there. And again, the mobile homestead paying dividends here for Javier Dominguez. And again, I'd ask you, how does he do it?
Well, he's doing it pretty well right now. Now, it is worth noting that his battlefield's just okay. Now, Ikawa is down to 11 and has some decisions to make on how to work through this, but Javier's hand is also pretty good. Hitting lands with that homestead is nice, of course, and that's a fun little sub-game that's taking place here. But Javier's hand has 2 removal spells. Javier has a decent amount, of removal spells in his deck, and those aforementioned X spells in Crackle with Power and Electro Dominance means that he is drawing very live as this game does continue.
That's true, but I want to point something out here because we're going to see potentially an interaction that actually doesn't come all that much, right? So everyone knows the card Explosive Derailment. We know it, we love it, right? 1 red mana plus spree. Usually we just stop at an extra 2 mana to deal 4 damage to target creature.
Yes, indeed.
Let's not forget the second thing on,
Oh,
the spree
yeah,
for this card.
unfortunately.
Panic
Yeah,
2,
unfortunately.
destroy target artifact.
Yeah.
Not something that comes up all the time, but here,
Be a good spot for it.
Ikawa could pull off a rambunctious 2-for-1
Yeah.
with this card. All right, Terminal Agony gets rid of Jolene. And in comes the Homestead. Oh, is he
2 points
whiffed?
down to 8.
Yeah.
Never lucky.
Yeah, it's really tough to be Javier.
Never lucky. But Ikawa is the one who really is never lucky at this stage because he cannot find that 5th land.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting right now because Ikawa has all spells, no 5th land, as you did mention. And now the question is how to convert these spells into actual things that are played. Convert these resources, right? Because ending the game with all these spells in hand, less than ideal. So as much as Ikawa would love to double spree in Explosive Derailment here, that doesn't really look to be in the cards at the moment. So how exactly to move forward in this instance is somewhat interesting.
So Raucous Entertainer, Stubborn Burrow Fiend at this point, essentially just kind of 2/2s, just Grizzly Bears. They're obviously a little bit better than just that, but on this battlefield at least, if Ikawa's wanting to double spell, as we see him do here right now, this isn't a super impressive turn, although it's nice to be able to deploy multiple cards. At the same time.
Absolutely. Oh, boy. Well,
Never mind. All right.
Fireball!
That's going to do it here. Electro Dominance, I believe. That was the card there for Javier Dominguez. We'll close this game out nice and neatly.
No land, no draw land.
And as Ikawa said there, couldn't draw land. Couldn't find the land. As we head into game number 2, Cedric, there's something I want to point out to you here, right? Ikawa lost game number 1, which means that he'll decide who's on the play and who's on the draw. Traditionally, almost always, 99% of the time, you put yourself on the play when you get the opportunity to. You'll notice here, Dominguez is the guy going first. Ikawa has put himself on the draw again. 2 matches in a row we've seen this now.
This is not terribly surprising to me, especially in this matchup. I agree with you that players do elect to, especially in limited formats nowadays, elect to play first, especially in formats that are very much about the 2 drops in the format. But this one, and in this particular matchup, I don't really think it's about that. I think the extra card does matter quite a bit.
Because you're not going to get run over on turn 4.
I think it is quite unlikely, yes.
All right. So, Dominguez opens things up with a little plot, a little scheme here for the Spaniards. And a Stubborn Burrow Fiend now for Ikawa.
Now, I will say this. If this is a format that you can choose to draw first willingly, I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
It feels like forever ago that was the thing that you could do.
I remember it was M14 that was huge for that because it had opportunity, the draw 4 cards.
I remember that
That was
card,
that was just opportunity dot format.
It's a really good card in that
That was,
format.
that was a fun format, and it was also printed 10 years ago. Cedric, where does the time go?
It's true. It's true.
Oh boy! All right, Scale Storm Summoner. That's easy for me to say. Comes down. This is a juicy one here. Look at this. Very much at home in the red-green lists, obviously with its triggered ability, but still, no one's arguing with the Centaur course. At 3 mana, 3/3. Play those all day long.
And this is all positive. All upside is this human warlock.
Ikawa now
Mercenary? Okay.
plays Prickly Pear. So this is 3 mana for 3 power and 3 toughness, but a little better, honestly.
Yeah, mercenaries are nice. Obviously, when you think of mercenaries in the set, you think about the outlaws and shoot the sheriff, but you also think about the fact that it does create a mercenary and looking into doing a little bit of saddling, it appears.
Yeah.
4 cards, 5
Yep.
cards. 5 cards. 3/3.
We're heading in with the stubborn Burrow Fiend.
3/3.
Mill 2 cards, and it got +1/+1, I believe, there. So trades, yeah. Was it 1 creature, the Raucous Entertainer, milled over. So this leaves Ikawa just with a Prickly Pear. Back over to Javier Dominguez now.
Now, remember, last game, Javier was kind of cooking, getting all these lands into play, all these favorable triggers, get all this mana on the battlefield, and then finish things up with an X-Spell, which his deck is very capable of doing, of course. However, in this game, Javier was on the play. Ikawa chose to draw first, and Javier has now missed land number 4.
File Smasher, the play for him. Don't forget he's got that highway robbery plotted away.
Yep.
So if things get really dire for him and he's got some huge 6-drop or something in his hand, he can just discard it and draw 2 freshies, which he may want to do because his position is not a hugely favourable one right now. You don't want to miss your land drops this early on in the game. All right, we're going to see Prickly Pear get in for 3, thanks to the Mercenary. And Javier Dominguez uses the Claw, and the Prickly Pear is no more.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that that was necessarily... I don't think that was a bare necessity for him to make that block
No,
there.
not at all. I mean, sitting at 20 life, that's a willing choice. I think Javier, by making that block there, you're basically saying, all right, I'm happy playing a longer game. Let's settle in, as it were.
1920. Yep. Draw card. Yep.
And this is a nice one here. And finds the land. That's
Yeah.
what we wanted to see. That Vault Plunderer was going to be really, really useful in keeping Dominguez's board developed, making sure that he was playing cards out while also, you know, didn't have to just take a turn off to cast the highway robbery.
Draw. Go.
Ankle Biter, the play. And the plotting and scheming continues now for Ikawa with Tumbleweed Rising.
This game is shaping up to be a pretty nice one here. Both players are kind of working themselves deep into the mid game here. I think we're going to see a pretty late game. Remember, Javier has all these fireballs to draw towards. Players are plotting plenty of spells at the moment as well. So players are really setting up for a longer game. And again, I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if we do see a third game here, which, you know, fingers crossed we do, because I like watching both these players play Magic quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if Javier chose to be on the draw for game number 3. I think both players know that both their decks are good, they have good cards to draw to, and they wouldn't mind playing a longer game to try to get to those cards.
I just think that the longer the game goes, the better the position Dominguez is in.
I think it's better because Javier has X-Spells to draw to.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Javier minds playing a bit of a longer game. So that's why I say if there is a third game here and Javier has option, I wouldn't be surprised if he chose to draw.
I just think that means for Ikawa that Ikawa is the one who wants to try to speed things up.
Well, this could be poor role assessment by Ikawa. Remember, Ikawa chose to draw first.
Yeah.
So depending on how the game does go.
All right,
Okay.
we got a dragon.
Okay.
We got a dragon in the plot zone.
Scorpion dragon.
Excuse me, got a for all the Scorpion fans, all the arthropod fans out there
Oh, boy.
rejoicing here as Stingerback Terror heads into the plot zone.
This is the first real time that you and I, who we're just covering round 2 each day of the limited portion
Yeah.
this weekend. This is the first time that we've had the opportunity to watch a game of multiple things being plotted and watching players try to figure out when is the best time to cast these things for free off of plot. Which, again, format's new. I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's actually quite fascinating to see these cards over there on the side and saying, okay, these things are hanging out here. When's the right time to do this? And what's the reason that it's the right time?
Well, one of my favorite plot cards in the set is the highway robbery, just because, you know, Tormenting Voice is a card. First of all, the worst card in the world to cast when you're going to get blown out by a counterspell, right? Which they've played around with this, with the way that this has been formatted in terms of you only have to discard the card or sacrifice land after the spell actually resolves, not as part of trying to put it on the stack. But it's one of those cards that if you need to cast it on turn 2, sometimes you need to, but it's also just great to invest the mana in it and come back to it turns and turns and turns later.
Absolutely.
And if Javier looks at his hand, he's like, oh, this is fine. I can work with this. For sure I can work with this.
Yep.
He's not under any pressure to fire it off.
If his hand's good, he doesn't have a reason to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's sitting there ready to go. Now, that's obviously a very different card to something like the Stingerback Terror, which is going to put a lot of pressure on. Is going to be a card that is going to have a much higher impact. But just the decision, the texture of the decisions that are being made by people because of these plot
17,
cards,
yep.
as you say, Cedric, it's really fascinating. All right, in comes the Ankle Biter. Black Snag Buzzard has come down for Dominguez with a +1/+1 counter on it. So that's a tidy little threat there, a 3/2 flyer.
yeah.
Okay, like that. And now Ikawa for 5 mana. What's he got?
Okay.
All right, we're going to see a 4/5. Oh, and here comes the Stingerback Terror joining the Iron Fist Pulverizer now.
3 point and all scry.
15 scry.
I mean, like that's an awesome double spell turn.
Well, yeah, and that's what you want to be doing, right, with the Pulverizer.
So it will be a 4/4 also, right?
Yeah.
Extra 2 damage and a scry, of course. And with 3 cards in hand, Ikawa is confirming that the Stingerback Terror is indeed a 4/4. Which is fine. It's a good roll.
Totally fine.
It's only going to get better.
Fine. Yep. 4 mana, 4/4 flyer. You'd be happy with Flying Trample. Pardon me. And now this as well. So yeah, this is it's a pretty darn good turn.
It's
Jeez.
a big board.
I think.
That's a big old board. And it's interesting that Ikawa decided to cast
next
that
time is
now.
Yeah, madness, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Please, madness.
So I'm gonna kill
yeah,
this.
Yeah, it's time for
Yeah,
removal spells.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
return.
I know.
Fires off Murder on the Iron Fist Pulverizer.
So
Going after the
gonna-
Pulverizer there
Yes,
instead
yes.
of the Dragon.
Yeah, leads me to believe that Javier has an answer to the
Card.
dragon.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does this
Yep.
go? Like
Madness.
I draw the card before I set the target, or
Yep.
how does? I don't know how. I assume so.
All right, so we're going to have a judge involved here to deal with this Terminal
Yeah,
Agony, which is being
before-
cast with
before draw and
Madness.
Discard cost and play it. Reserve and reserve.
No, because it's not additional cost.
Yes.
So I draw
Yeah.
first 2, and then I decide. Right?
Sure, of course.
So you first discard, draw 2, then choose what you
Okay. I mean, I'm gonna kill the same thing, but
Good choice, Javi.
Yeah, I don't
No,
think
no,
there's
no,
anything
no,
that
no,
Dominguez is
no,
going to
no,
draw at the top of his library that's going to make him
Oh,
change the target here.
Yeah, it is a little bit weird, as you mentioned, Riley. Normally, these style effects are like Tormenting Voice, where as part of the cost you discard, discarding is part of the resolution of Highway Robbery, so the timing with Madness, which is always quite the ordeal, is a little bit different this time around. All roads lead to that dragon being dead.
Yes, yes, indeed. And both of the cards drawn by Dominguez there were mountains, so the lands
cards.
continue to flow for him. Ikawa still 3 cards in hand. That hasn't changed. Now, after this Tormenting... Oh, we're going to see another removal spell as well here.
Very good.
In
Yeah,
the
so
form of Thunder
Javier-
Salvo.
Javier's deck very well equipped for killing the opposing creatures. So 3 copies of Terminal Agony, that's of course the Madness removal spell. Shoot the Sheriff, which we saw last game. Murder, which we saw
17.
last game. Thunder Salvo, which we just saw now. If you want to consider Terror of the Peaks, Electro Dominance, Crackle with Power, as those being removal spells as well. This is what a Rakdos deck kind of looks like in
Yeah.
this format, is just the creatures are fine, but the removal appears to be quite good.
Removal's back. All right, here is Free Strider Commando. And Cedric, this is a card about which I have some thoughts.
So I've heard.
Yeah, this is a card I want to get into here, and it's not the fact that it's an on-rate 3-mana 3/3 or a plot card that's really good. It's important that we keep the art up here because this is a Centaur. This is a half-man, half-horse hybrid here.
All true.
On obviously, you know, on a plane dominated by the lore and the mythos of the Wild West. Half-man, half-horse that is chosen, that is elected to wear spurs on its front legs. Now, this really raises a lot of questions for me.
5 here.
Is the Centaur kicking himself in the flanks to make himself go faster?
No, it is being flung at the opponent instead.
Okay.
That's how fast the Spurs are making it
That's
go.
why the Spurs are on, for more damage via fling.
I don't understand why this Centaur... Wearing spurs is the mark of the lazy horseman. And this is a literal horseman who's still electing to wear spurs. I don't understand it.
I'll never understand.
I'll never understand it. someone has proposed that it's because this centaur is using mounts, like himself.
Yes.
In which case, he should know. As a centaur, it's not very nice to use spurs when you're mounted.
I'm sure there's a flavor fan out there.
I'm
who
going to
can
be
answer this
talking.
question.
I'm going to be going back to the creative department at Wizards R&D, and I'm going to be having some very stern conversations with them about exactly why this. What is the reason, the in-universe reason for this card to be representing a centaur wearing spurs?
I've got nothing for you, partner.
He's not holding a horsewhip that he's smacking himself on the bum to make himself go faster, is he?
No, I don't think so.
My goodness. All right. Explosive derailment now, so it's not just Dominguez with the removal spells. Derailment, one of the better red commons.
Great red common. Fantastic red common. Great back and forth between these two players as well. So, as it is very clear that both players feel as though they can play a longer game. Life total not in favor of Javier right now. I am curious to see what a block looks like here, if there is one, though. Because we are looking at an event with open pools, not open deck list per se. So if you are Ikawa, you lost to a Fireball last game, Electro Dominance. You know that X spells are a thing to be worried about, so keeping your life total high is of interest.
I don't know the card name.
Or are you more interested in racing to try to, because obviously the longer it goes, the worse the Fireball situation gets. So do you just want to try to put the pedal to the metal?
Within reason. Within reason.
It's difficult to try to find which balance
Try to
do you
find
want
a balance,
to
yeah.
which balance do you want to try to strike there. Well, Cactarantula is a great one here. This is one of the better green commons for sure. Coming down at full market retail value of 6 mana. Often we see it discounted down to 5. At 5, it's a great deal. But at 6, still good.
Still totally fine.
Still really good.
Totally fine.
Yeah. Sometimes these big green clunkers are just kind of unimpressive, right? The colossal dreadmaws of the format, but Cactarantula, hell of a card.
10 damage to 2 targets.
Crackle with power here.
Yep, good attack here from Javier, too.
Ikawa does get the card back, but now on 4 life. As Javier crackles away, and the trade with the ankle biter. So Ikawa now, his opponent down to 8, has to find something.
That's not bad.
And that's not bad, an explosive derailment. In comes the mercenary. So Ikawa, the only creature on the battlefield, joined by a Jolene.
Okay, look at this. Look at these two go back and forth. Jeez,
Eternal agony
kill
off
that.
the Wolverine. Away goes Jolene. She barely made an appearance. So now it's Dominguez with the wind in his sails. The 3-2 facing off against the 1-1. And Ikawa, land, go. Not ideal for him. Down to 1 life. Dominguez, both players sitting with 2 lands in hand. What can Dominguez find off the top?
Yep.
The forced block here follows it up. And it's not going to be enough for Ikawa, who goes down in straight sets to Javier Dominguez. We had a whole lot of setup. We had a long, expansive mid-game, and then that game ended in a huge rush with a great flurry of spells after that enormous crackle with power there, Sid.
X spells, X spells, X spells. Electro Dominance is one, Crackle with Power is the other. Both were fantastic in that game and match. But it's still some rule spells that Javier has that Ikawa didn't have. We talked about the copies of Terminal Agony. 3 of those. We saw Shoot the Sheriff. We saw Murder. We saw Thunder Salvo over the course of those games. We have talked about just a little bit in the previous format how bad Murder was and how bad some removal spells were in the face of Disguise. Doesn't appear to be the case in this format. It seems like removal spells kind of at varying cost are back on the menu, and we saw them very impactful there for Dominguez.
Ikawa was setting up that board, a lot of imposing creatures, you know, the dragon, the 4-4, all of them dead by the end of the turn, and that's all she wrote for that match there. We're going to take a quick break, but on the other side of it, you're not going to want to miss this. A double feature Hall of Fame matchup here, Reid Duke versus Ben Stark coming up. We'll see you back here in Seattle in just a few moments. Welcome back to Seattle here for Pro Tour Thunder Junction. It's my great pleasure to welcome you back into our limited rounds here. Riley and I joined by Cedric Phillips. We've already had one match in this round done and dusted, and we're moving into a second one. And this one, oh my goodness, we've got a real barnstormer here. Reid Duke facing off against Ben Stark. Both of these players in the Hall of Fame. Both these players with a, well, look at that, tied up in terms of top finishes. Both of them immensely talented players of this game that we all love.
And both Pro Tour champions.
Pro Tour champions.
That's right.
Reid very recently.
Yes, Pro Tour Phyrexia.
Very well for himself there. We're going to jump into game number 1, and we're going to whiz through these games here nice and quick so we can show you as much magic as possible. Kicking things off with Reid taking a mulligan down to 6. And we're off to the races with Ben opening the account for us. And I know you've cast your eyes over these decks here, Cedric. Any remarks, any insights you want to lend us?
Reid is full Naya, even though you do see, of course, that eroded canyon, which will show that maybe there's a little splash going on. But 6 forests, 4 plains, 4 mountains. Base Naya deck with some other odds and ends going on here. Kind of proof that you can be a lot of colors in this format and succeed. I know our last match we saw 2 2-color decks go at it. This time around we're seeing a little bit of 3-color action on both sides. For Reid it's Naya, for Ben it is Jund. So again, there's a lot of different things you can do in the format as far as color combinations are concerned, which kind of means, Riley, that the world is your oyster at times.
Ben Stark opening things up with a Servant of the Stinger. Here's another card that I've got some thoughts on, Cedric. I don't know what's generating the UV light to make these scorpions glow, but some scorpions do that. They glow under UV light. Did you know that?
I actually did not know.
No, some scorpions are glow in the dark in very specific circumstances.
That's fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Fun-ish.
Thank you for subscribing to Scorpion Facts.
Yeah, yeah.
More as the...
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, dude. Oh, yeah. I don't know what's generating the UV light. This servant's got one of those lights they use to like check your passport at the airport.
Yeah,
apparently.
yeah.
But, whatever it is, the scorpions are glowing. Intrepid Stable Master, the follow-up play for Ben Stark. On the other side of things, here's a card that I absolutely love: Outcaster Greenblade.
Now this card, one of the best green cards.
It's so good.
Very, very good card.
Like I like Borderland Ranger is enough for me.
One of my favorite Magic.
Borderland Ranger is a classic in my household, but. Outcaster Greenblade, I think, is just a little bit better.
This is like already better than Borderland Ranger 2 because on the battlefield it's a 2/3. There's a desert.
Yeah.
Bang.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some constructed play some point.
You think so? I would love that.
Search for a desert, man. That's probably pretty powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's some sort of deck that can use the desert's ping ability.
Yeah. Human mercenary. Creature types might matter.
Yeah.
It's easy to cast. Like there's a lot of upside there. That's what I'll say.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that card get it done. All right. We continue here with Ben playing a card that's going to let him look at Reid Duke's hand.
A little binded Negotiation. Take a little look-ski.
Yeah, let's see.
Discard spells.
See what's going on.
Discard spells limited are always kind of interesting. You know, sometimes you see a like a duress sideboarded in. Sometimes you see like your Castigate style cards. This is kind of within the same vein, but it also allows you to put a face-up exiled card they own into their graveyard. So that's a really good counteraction for plot, which is actually quite nice. Now, how often is this going to come up? I don't know, but it appeared to be pretty good there.
Well, I remember I was listening to Marshall's, our good friend and colleague Marshall.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him?
No.
Oh, he would. He's got a pretty niche
good
little...
guy?
He's got a pretty niche little podcast called Limited Resources. Great way to prepare for
That's
these.
a pun. I
What's
get
that?
it.
What?
Limited resource?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
get it?
it's also a magic card. But
what?
he made the point that you can cast a Binding Negotiation when something's been plotted and never have the disaster scenario of casting the duress and whiffing.
That's
right?
true, yes.
So if there's a plot card and you cast the Binding Negotiation, you're just like, well, at the very worst, I'm getting rid of this card that already they've invested mana.
There's a lot of upside here.
It's a lot better than it looks,
Yeah.
this card, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Reid Duke, having to think about what he wants to do. I've looking at his list, I don't see any blue cards. I don't think he's actually spending any blue mana. So I think the Eroded Canyon and the Lush Oasis that are found in his deck are just for cards like the Outcaster Greenblade. Is that correct?
Yeah, but they're also like, on color per se, right?
Yes.
Because the one half of the desert is red in the Naya deck, and the other half of the desert is green for the Naya deck. So Reid actually working with 4 deserts. Now, talking to a lot of players, and our players party on Thursday, of course. Players, deserts, they are delightful.
Yeah, delightful deserts. Who doesn't love a desert? Tumbleweed Rising in the plot zone now. That's definitely one that you want to play a little bit later on. So happy to plot that away. Back to Ben.
Double spell turn.
All right, double spell. That's good for him. He's going to be very happy to have used his mana efficiently here. Rattleback Apothecary. Follows up the ornery Tumblewag here.
And again, because this tournament is taking place where Thunder Junction has not been out very long, and at least in the limited portion of this tournament, you're going to see players reading a lot of the opponent's cards just to make sure they know what they do. Cards have a lot of different abilities and unique interactions in this set from some crazy creature types, which does matter because of outlaw text as well. So it's always good to double and triple check your work, especially when you're sitting at the 7-1-1 versus 7-2 table. Don't be too proud to take a look.
And that's exactly what Ben is doing now, as we see Tai Joaquin, Perfect Shot. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to a creature equal to that creature's toughness, draw a card. So, in other words, if you Lightning Strike a 3/3, draw a card. If you Shock a 2/2, draw a card.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
we're not going to get into this nonsense. Ben wants to kill that thing.
I did like the sequence of Tumblewag into the Apothecary there, putting a +1/+1 counter on a creature that can gain Menace and/or Lifelink. Really, really nice.
You know, Ben's play here is somewhat straightforward insofar as just casting a removal spell on that creature is just kind of like, well, you know, I don't really know what Tai Joaquin can do.
Yeah.
You know, is there a lot of upside in your deck to really make this painful? So in some respects, I do like that Ben just says, all right, I'm just going to Consuming Ashes that and do a little surveil action.
And now, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I don't got to worry about that
I don't want to
much.
play my 6/6 and have and with a 2/2 token out and get trick shot.
Yeah, something bad happened. Yeah, I like that there
Yeah.
from Ben. Just enough of that.
There's enough of this. I don't want to find this out. Looking across Reid's list here, he's got the Explosive Derailment, he's got the Trick Shot. Doesn't have a huge amount of ways to deal direct damage. Savage Smash, I guess. Does that do it as well with Tai Joaquin? It's a source you control. I think it would.
+2/+2 and then fight star creature you don't control.
Because the creature deals damage. It's a
Yeah, it's
you
non-combat
control the
damage.
source.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I think that's how it would work. It's not combat damage, despite it being a fight.
Ben is playing the. This is a simple game of Magic here. This is the way I like to play Limited, which is play some creatures, kill your stuff, and kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it worked.
You're not fiddly farting around with
No,
Tai
no,
Joaquin
no,
perfect
no.
shot
Way
triggers.
little-
You're not drawing extra cards, doing anything like that.
A
No.
little too much text for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Reading? Who's got time for that?
Not me.
Not Cedric Phillips, everyone. All right, that's game number 1. We've got that one done and dusted. We move on now to game number 2 here. Reid Duke, can he bounce back after an early mulligan and an early loss to Ben Stark? Both players sticking on 7. You do love to see it. And Reid will be kicking things off here with that Lush Oasis. We mentioned that earlier.
Ding ya.
Yeah, get you for 1. He's winning.
Technically true.
He's winning.
I can't argue against you. Oh boy.
Oh, boy, he's really winning. He's just doubled his lead.
Take it. Ooh, discard skis. Ah, man, that
Okay.
Griff. The Griff showed up for us a lot yesterday.
Yeah,
When
we had the 1/4 flying around all over the place, but this might be the pick here, I think, off the Binding Negotiation.
Come on now. Let me have something here.
Oh, it's imitation is the sincerest form of
All right,
flattery.
you know what?
You know,
Make a good
I've
point.
built a career
I
on
make
this,
a
Cedric.
good point.
Listen to me. You may have a decades-long successful coverage career built on originality, wit, charm, and charisma.
Boy,
Do you know
really
what mine is built on?
Really laying it on thick
I'm
here,
standing
pal.
on the shoulders of giants, baby, and I'm not giving those giants a shred of credit either. Let me tell you that, all right? All right. Ben here, still thinking about what he wants to take. Is it going to be the Griff, or are we going to go in a different direction, take the Tumbleweed Rising? No. Ultimately, it's the Stagecoach Security. And as a result, the Griff comes down right on time, turn 3.
Now, the the Congregation Griff isn't the scariest card in the world at the moment. You know, it's just a 1/4 flying lifelink, and I say that with no sarcasm because on its face it's not that scary, but it can get scary. And the lifelink damage does add up a little bit. And now the Tumbleweed Rising not at its best right now, but plotting that for ideally when a big creature comes down and followed up with another big creature, or maybe saddling up on the Griff to make that a little bit larger. So Reid does need a little bit of help right now. It's not a bad start, of course, but a good draw step would be nice.
My suspicion is that Ben is looking at that Griff and thinking, well, I can beat that, no problem, which says that maybe he's got something in his hand that deals with it in one go. Or because if you look at a card like Skate, oh my goodness.
Yep, got
Stage
you. Finally,
Code
got
Security. Wah wah wee wah. That's a card that I feel like can be dealt with, but Ben's like, no, I prefer to deal with the 1/4, even if it hits me a couple of times. It's not the end of the world. He is going to be patient, just like this Naturalist that's played as well.
No rush, not under any real duress at the moment. There are, that's the first slip-up that you've had on a card name this week, and I've been paying attention.
Yeah.
Because as I've realized in this particular set, Thunder Junction, they've got like 5 different cards that are like bum, 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 but hard to say, like the, what's the Slick Shot?
The Slick Shot Show Off.
Yeah, they've got like 4 or 5 different cards that are like that.
But there's a bit of a tongue twister going on.
I want to know who names the cards. In the
Stagecoach Security. That shouldn't be difficult to say.
Yet here we are.
Yet here we are with the Brushwag getting in along with that Patient Naturalist. Ornery Tumblewag.
Ornery. Oof. It's a nice little card, too. Nice little mount.
Certainly not one that I'm going to mispronounce. Be very, very careful with how that one is said, I can tell you that. And an Overzealous Muscle, the follow-up here for Ben Stark. It's an Ornery Tumblewag. Yeah.
And an Overzealous. Ornery and Overzealous.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we finally get to do a little something here off of the plot. Shepherd of the Clouds first, then Tumbleweed Rising second, so 4/4. That's not a bad little turn there from me. I said it yesterday. I'm going to say it again today. Plot is awesome.
Yeah, plot's a really cool
It's
mechanic.
just really good limited mechanic. It's so much fun, just the planning and sequencing of the cards.
And how you're going to make the most of a, this is any mechanic that allows people to test their player skill by making decisions.
Yes.
Right?
I absolutely love it.
Yep. Well, hopefully we'll see it more in the future. It doesn't seem like the sort of thing that is necessarily tied to Thunder Junction as like, from a flavor standpoint.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope we do see this become something that resembles an evergreen mechanic, or at least a return.
Yeah, I'd love for it to come back.
These beatdowns. I
All
like
right.
it. Ben says, do whatever you want.
Yeah, but I'm just going to attack you for a lot of damage here. The Overzealous Muscle, the Patient Naturalist, and of course the Ornery Tumblewag all get involved. And how is Reid going to line up his blocks?
All right, so the first thing I'm doing right now, as Reid's lining up the blocks, I'm seeing if he has access to Snakeskin Veil in his deck. That's the first thing because single green in this format, that's Snakeskin Veil, and it's very good in this format. That is removal laden, and I'm not seeing one.
I can tell you it's not played in his main deck.
Yeah.
I can have a look at his pool here and see. I don't imagine why you wouldn't start it if you had it.
Yeah, because Ben's immediately tapping mana for a removal spell here, and this is kind of the fear.
0 copies of Snakeskin Veil, which Ben will be very aware of.
Ben's deck is tough to double block against because he has 3 Consuming Ashes and a copy of Murder, so he has a lot of instant speed removal, and I think double blocks are going to look like that a high percentage of the time against Ben if that does come up. And boy, that was brutal.
Yeah, Reid just went down there as Ben was able to pile on the pressure. And I'm not going to say he made it look easy because Reid at the end of the day just had a hand that didn't line up against the threats and the answers that Ben had. Both players pretty good decks, but at the end of the day, Ben's was able to pull out the dub for him pretty convincingly.
Yeah, now do remember in the match we watched with Javier and then the match we watched with Ben, pretty straightforward stuff insofar as it's creatures of varying sizes and skills and text and all other stuff, and then just removal spells being at a premium. So Javier had a lot of removal spells in his Rakdos deck. Ben had a lot of removal spells there with the Consumings and the Murder, and just the ability to just kind of get ahead a little bit and then start attacking downhill and then killing stuff that matters along the way. I'm not saying that's the solve to the format. That's the solve to a lot of limited formats, which is creatures and removal. But again, previous formats we have seen removal be a little bit worse. It looks to be quite good here.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a lesson we can take away, particularly in that first match that we watched. Removal played a key role in resolving that one. All right, my friends, we're going to take a quick break, get things set up for our third and final round of Limited here at Pro Tour Thunder Junction. We're looking forward to your company for it. So stick around, a quick break, and then back at the news desk.